Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ribs, Really Itty Bitty Soldiers. For those of you joining us the first time, glad to have you. For those returning, you must be a real glutton for punishment. Anyway, we are doing another one of our appetizer videos. For those of you who've never tuned in, an appetizer video is just a very short, maybe 10 or 15 minute video to give you a basic overview of how a game is played. We're not going to do any kind of detail rules dive. We're not going to do any complete run through, just to give you a taste to see if you really want to invest in this game. We're going to do something a little bit different. I'm starting a series. I'm going to be doing appetizers on three similar games, and it's no coincidence that the British Rifles flag is up here behind me. My first series is going to be on some Napoleonic miniatures games. I'm going to be reviewing three of them, and then in my in my fourth video, I'm going to be doing kind of a side-by-side comparison of the videos. So stay tuned. So the format of these three review videos is going to be very much the same. I'm going to divide it into sections. We're going to deal with scale, command and control, movement, combat, support as far as support for the product, and then I'll give you some final thoughts. So the first game in our Napoleonic series that I'll be reviewing is one called Bloody Big Battles by Chris Pringle. This game was published in 2014, and interestingly enough, the original rule set, if you were to go out and purchase this, you would look at it and go, wait a minute, this says rules for wargaming the late 19th century. What's that all about, Jim? That's like 80 years after the Napoleonic Wars. Well, what happened is Chris came out with a set of rules for the Franco-Prussian War. That's where it was originally intended, Franco-Prussian War and maybe World War I. And then later on, Chris and some other designers got together and published a set of books for other areas. And one of those is Napoleon's Bloody Big Battles, which details battles everything from Napoleon's rise when he was really conquering Europe in 1805 down to the very end at the Battle of Waterloo. So let's go down to the table and let's take a look at Bloody Big Battles. So the scale in Bloody Big Battles is that each unit is a brigade or a division, depending on what size battle you're going to be recreating, but they say it's supposed to be between 3,000 and 7,000 men. So each one of these would be one division. Now, there are only three different formations that you can have. And I've got these separated out a little bit just so that they can see them a little easier for the camera. You can have a unit in line. It can be in depth. Both of these are in depth, or it can be in march column. And each of those has advantages in combat, in assault, or in movement, respectively. And you also have attached skirmisher stands. You don't have units that break down completely into skirmishers, because we're talking again about a whole division of men. We're not talking about light companies that have been detached from a battalion or something like that, because again, remember, this is a scaled out, zoomed out version of this. So in order to movement rules are very simple. There's a little bit of command friction. You have a little table here that shows your results. The result is you roll 2d6. Depending on what you roll, you either get a full move or a half move or no move, or you have to retire or you become disrupted. If you're already disrupted, you have to roll on a separate table. And depending on the results, you'll either rally and move, or you could possibly be removed from the table. As you take casualties, you get negative modifiers if your unit is spent. So if I wanted to take this French division and assault these British, I would roll, and if I rolled an 11, that's a full move, so I will go ahead and move them into contact. So you go through and you roll and move all of your units. Then you move your generals if you need to move them up to get them within command range. They get a bonus if they're within command range. The defender gets to do defensive fire, then the attacking player does offensive fire, and then you resolve assaults. Formation changes, you'll recognize this if you've played any other Napoleonics. It takes a half move to change formation from either march column to line or in depth or whichever formation you're going to move to. And if your die result means you only get a half move, then guess what? You can either move or you can change formation. It's the same way with artillery. It's a half move to limber and unlimber. You generally have to move within a 45-degree arc. If you move outside that, then you deduct something from your movement, depending on whether it's infantry or cavalry. So most of the rules you're not going to find very unfamiliar if you've played any kind of linear tactics games before. And again, it moves very quickly. There is difficult terrain. There's not a whole lot of different types of terrain. Generally speaking, it's going to be open, difficult. It could be considered a linear obstacle, or it is impassable. So there's not a whole lot of looking up rules to see if you can move through particular types of terrain. Combat is very simple. You have a table here that you get to roll on, and it's essentially for the Napoleonics, you're using only smoothbore muskets or smoothbore artillery. So you're only going to be using one line. There's a range. Smoothbore muskets go out to 3 inches. Artillery can go out to 18, and they have different fire factors depending on what range the artillery is firing at. And you just add up the stands. There are some modifiers if there's a skirmisher with the firer or with the target. If there is the target is in the march column, there's a modifier to that. So, and then what you do is you roll 2 dice again, and whatever you roll, you can either stop the unit if the French are charging and the British roll high enough to stop them, then they halt an inch away from them and the charge does not go through. You can take stand losses, and the other result that you can get is disrupted. There's a lot of disruption going to be going on, and like I was mentioning in the movement section, that you have to roll to overcome that disruption, or else you take a negative on your assault and you cannot move. All right, let's look at assaults. Let's say that the French were not stopped by the British's fire, so they go in and assault. So each side rolls 1d6, and then you compare the difference. So the British have a 5, the French have a 6. That is modified by a few factors. If the one side is disrupted, there's a negative for that person, that side rather. If there's a numerical advantage. If one side is aggressive, the French are in depth, so that gives them a plus. And then you look at the assault table, and depending on how much you win the assault by, you either force the defender, or the loser rather, to retire. They could lose a base, or they can lose 2 bases and retire a full move. And then the winner, if the winner's the attacker has the option of following up and assaulting another unit. But the assault is very simple. It is one table you have to roll on with a couple of modifiers. So the last thing I want to touch on is the support. And from what I've seen, there is a Facebook page for Bloody Big Battles, And Chris Pringle is extremely active on this group. He is constantly answering questions. I've posted 2 or 3 questions to him myself, and Chris has always gotten back very quickly. The other people that are on the Facebook page are very friendly, helpful, answering questions. There's also an IO groups. If you've never tried IO groups, check out their page. There is a ton, and I do mean a ton, of scenarios from every single time period you could possibly imagine. Everything from the Indian mutinies to World War I. They're even working on trying to do this for ancients battles. Chris has informed us that they are working also on an American Civil War battle book. So it's an extremely vibrant and active community, and you will definitely find all the support you could possibly ever need on these groups. So it is an extremely well supported game. Well, there you have it. There's Bloody Big Battles. So, final thoughts. So on the plus side, this game is very good at recreating large battles. You can do Borodino on a 6x4 table, and if everybody knows what they're doing and is playing very quickly without a lot of analysis paralysis, you can finish it in a day. Waterloo, you can put on a 6x4 table and finish it in a day. Most games, miniatures games especially, you just don't have that available. So this game does an excellent job on that. It moves along very quickly. It's very simple. There's 1 page of tables, front and back, and that's pretty much all you need to play. So it flows very smoothly. So it's highly recommended if you want to get that Army commander feel, where you're just commanding 100,000 men. Now, on the flip side, by being able to do that, you are going to sacrifice some of the flavor. Not a lot, but you're not getting down into the weeds as far as forming square and figuring out how many rifles you've got on each side of the square to see how many dice you roll. So you may lose a little of the rock, paper, scissors that you get with most Napoleonics or black powder games, mainly Napoleonics. You know, cavalry's good against infantry unless it's in square. Artillery's good against infantry in square, but doesn't stand up to a charge. You gamers that have played Napoleonic games, you know what I'm talking about. So if you're looking for a game that has a tremendous amount of flavor to it, this may not be your game. But if you're wanting something to where you can throw a lot of figures out on the table, have a great time with your friends, have a rule set that's pretty easy to understand, and especially if you've played other miniatures games before, the rules are very intuitive, then this is your game. So I hope that this has given you some insight. I hope that you also stay tuned for my other videos when I'm going to be doing 2 more Napoleonics miniatures rule sets, but I'm going to surprise you with the titles. So that'll make you have to tune in. So see you next time.